So we still have a few minutes left. If you want to engage in a little bit of question and answer with the Khenpo. One thought that I just wanted to offer back to the Khenpo is myself personally, as a second year student now in this really newly birthed Buddhist ministry program through the Harvard Buddhist Ministry Initiative, right now led by Janet Gatso. We definitely have the seeds of Buddhist ministry growing, and this emphasis on practice and developing compassion and study as a way to supplement or complement that emphasis is not falling on deaf ears here. So at this point, if there are any questions from the audience, the Khenpo asked earlier if people could, if you're in the program, maybe you could just say your name and what year you're in, or if you're just coming from outside the school, you could just say, you're from outside, where you're from. But maybe just give a word of introduction in your name and then ask your question.
My question is, why should I care my enemies? Why should I care my enemies?
From the perspective of bodhicitta, an enemy hurts others not by free will, but because they're driven by their own afflictions and habits. They can't help but harm others. So when we face an enemy, we should treat them as we would our own parents or close friends. Generating compassion even for our enemies is truly a high stage of practice. It's not easy for most people to reach that stage, but just like it says in the patience chapter of the Bodhicaryavatara, if you keep practicing, one day when you see your enemy, it will feel like seeing your own parents. So it's possible to reach that level.
My name is Alia Westcott, and I'm an interested neighbor. And I've been curious for a while of where do you draw the line? Do you extend that kind of compassion to plants? Because plants have their own sentiency as well.
The life of plants and the life of animals are different. Plants are not made up of the 5 aggregates. The Buddha explained this clearly in the Śūraṅgama Sūtra. When scientists say plants have life, they mean it's formed by changes in water, nutrients, temperature, and so on. This is what they call the life of plants. But the life of animals is composed of the 5 aggregates. Plants actually don't have life the way animals do. Even though we refer to both as life, what they mean is very different.
I was wondering, when all is said and done, whether you can have true compassion without wisdom, so that unless a wisdom is co-born, that the true compassion would somehow be hard to distinguish from the work of the good works.
Can you repeat your question?
Just trying to sort out the relation between wisdom and compassion, and whether when you go through all that can be gone through in developing your compassion, whether in the end you need also the wisdom realizing emptiness, because if you don't have that in the end, then how do you just prevent yourself from doing good works, without any deep wisdom?
Compassion and wisdom. In the verses about bodhicitta, just like I quoted earlier, wisdom that realizes bodhi and compassion that benefits others. The Buddha said we need both. Today's topic is mainly bodhicitta, so I didn't talk much about wisdom, but that does not mean we don't need wisdom. Wisdom is still necessary, just given the time and theme today, the main focus is bodhicitta. What's the relationship between wisdom and compassion? Even when dealing with worldly matters, we need wisdom all the same. Without wisdom, we don't know how to make good choices. But if we have only wisdom and lack compassion or concern for others, that's not enough. For example, during the First and Second World Wars, those who invented bombs, they certainly had intelligence. They invented many poisons and bombs. But they lacked compassion. As a result, many people lost their precious lives. So just compassion is not enough, and just wisdom is not enough either.
I have one question. So you spoke at the beginning of your talk, especially about the difference between being in academia and studying the teachings very intellectually and as an academic. So studying the teachings, like in a place like here, like Harvard, as an academic, there's that. And you spoke about the importance of practice and grounding it in the heart and life. I think we have a lot of historical reasons, especially in the Western Academy. I think we can trace them back to the Enlightenment period and the development of the universities, where in order to be a well-respected professor, it's hard to mix that with saying that you have a belief or an investment in the tradition that you are studying. What would be your advice to people who their lives are invested in the institution, in academia, but feel uncomfortable being able to really say that they're practitioners, and sort of presenting both of those lives?
Mm-hmm. As a researcher, it's not enough to just keep researching. It's important to combine study and actual practice. In Tibetan Buddhism, it's not only about practice. Some people spend 20 or 30 years in debate, study, and analysis. I've been to many schools, but the style of learning we have in Tibetan areas is still quite rare elsewhere. I don't mean that students should only practice and not study in school. We need both practice and study. Both are necessary. If we only study and don't practice, even if we are recognized as great scholars, if we don't practice ourselves, it's just empty talk. It won't make any great difference to society. It's like today's rich people, even if they have a lot of wealth, if they just enjoy it alone and don't benefit society, those with status are like this too. And those with talent don't help others. So with bodhicitta, if our practice is just words and ideas, and we don't actually practice, it can't really benefit the world. In fact, we might not even manage our own affairs.
Excuse me. What I wanted to ask is, everyone has different ideas. When we try to communicate, one side has one idea, the other side has another, and we can't reach agreement. So how can we be compassionate and inclusive?
What is your question? Do you mean how to unify everyone's thinking?
Everyone has their own ideas. It's hard to get everyone together. Everyone has their own values. So at times like that, how can we be inclusive? Thank you.
In Tibetan culture, we have a saying, 30 people have 30 kinds of ideas and 30 cows have 60 horns. Each horn is shaped differently. Just like that, everyone's mind is different. But when it comes to values, like for Americans, everyone's mind is different. But the value of the dollar is the same for everyone. So in the world, although people think differently, when it comes to thoughts and values, in many respects, we have much in common. Many aspects are the same. Everyone likes and dislikes different things. But the wish to help others in daily life, just like the bodhicitta I mentioned today, whether poor or rich, whether powerful or ordinary, this altruistic mind, not only people, even animals can have it. For everyone, altruism is extremely precious. Just like in America, the dollar doesn't suddenly become worthless. Even though each person may have a different standard for helping others, altruistic actions always have value.
I'm from Lhasa and I study economics at Brandeis University. My question is, after coming to study in the United States, I realized how underdeveloped my hometown's economy is and how low the standard of living is. I have a very real feeling about this. I sometimes joke with my family, if we want to change things in Tibet, someone must become a leader. My desire to help my people, my ambition to become a leader, does it come from compassion or from selfish desire? This is what I'd like to ask.
Generally speaking, the mind is constantly changing. If there is no trace of self-interest, and you sincerely wish to hold public office thinking, once I'm in a position of power, I can truly help the people, that is altruism, that is compassion. However, if your initial intention was to benefit others, but once you attain power and wealth, you end up serving only yourself, then that becomes selfish desire. Even if it's ostensibly for the Tibetan people or for others, it can still be a form of attachment. Desire can be understood in both a narrow and a broad sense. If it is truly for the whole Tibetan people, seeking office in order to benefit them, then the motivation is not self-serving. It should be regarded as compassion. Yet because some self-clinging still remains, there is also an element of attachment. We must analyze this carefully from both perspectives. Without close examination, the distinction remains unclear.
Okay, well, thank you everybody for coming out tonight. I think maybe we can stop there on that note, and perhaps we could just have sort of a wish in our hearts that any benefit that could have come from this gathering tonight could be a benefit to the whole world. Oh, thank you. So thanks again to Khenpo Sodargye, and thanks again to Dorje for translating for us.
Oh,